conference and of course the session, and you know the format of the conference because you were part of it, that people gave the topics and we got such interesting topics. I don't know whether you people went through the schedule properly. Did you manage to do that? Did you have a look at the schedule?
You're talking to Steve or you talking
Any
to
of
me?
both of you, because you've seen the interesting topics there are.
Yes.
Or, okay, good. So what we are going to do is, let's, by the time Tracey-Leigh comes in, should I go through something about the work I'm doing? Is that required? Or you people have...
Would you give me permission to honor you a little bit today, Mr. Mediator Vikram? Is that okay?
That's always okay. That's always a good starting point.
We have a gift for you. So we really want to, if you give me permission to share about you.
So nice of you to do that. I will. Please, I'm not going to even talk about anything that I do. Please, Leyla. I love that.
Well, this is our surprise for you. So would you give me permission to share the screen with you?
Yes, please.
As well.
Please. You can do that.
Okay. Okay. So we have we have created this in your honor, of course. Well, first, I just want to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I know there are probably people from all over the world who are probably joining us, and of course to my the panelists. I know that you have some more guests coming in, Vikram, but I'm Leyla, and I'm actually in Los Angeles, California, and I want to really say thank you to you, Vikram, and we have created a slide in your honor because first, just the fact that you dedicate your time, so much of your time, and create this platform for all the mediators around the world to come to your platform and discuss the topic of mediation. And you have created this world mediation circle that brings moral values, whereas you use ethic-based humanistic approach to dispute resolution, where heart, soul, and spirituality plays a vital role. And you have also included something by William Orr on your website that really resonated with me, and I like to share part of it. The plain fact is that the planet does not need more successful people, but it does desperately need more peacemaker, healers, storytellers, and lovers of every kind. It needs people of moral courage willing to join the fight to make the world habitable and humane. And these qualities have little to do with success as we have defined it. And how beautiful that is. I mean, I think it really speaks to the core of the person I am. And we're all here because we share same passion for promoting mediation and developing a culture of mediation and a mediation mindset. And of course, my wonderful colleague, Steve Menack, and he's the president of Academy of Professional Family Mediators. I'm just going to refer to it from now on as APFM. It's a little too long to say the whole words. So the APFM, he's the president, and unfortunately, I hope Tracey-Leigh is not.
She's here.
Is she here?
Yeah.
Oh,
here.
good. I thought maybe she didn't get the right Zoom link, but I'm glad she's joining us. Hi, Tracey-Leigh.
Is Tracey-Leigh going to be part of that session on lip reading? Okay, she is going to be. She is going to, because she can't read my lips, is it? Tracey-Leigh, we are not going to say the keyword, and the keyword is, we're not going to tell you. Okay, we're not going to tell her what the keyword is.
So hard. This is like what, 9:30 my time in LA, 1 a.m. your time, Steve, 6 a.m. Tracey-Leigh time. So Tracey-Leigh and I both actually serve as on the board of directors with APFM, and APFM is really dedicated to advancing professionalism, education, and really bringing public awareness about the field of family mediation. And I'm just going to now share what APFM is all about. We had a recent roundtable table with APFM on May 3rd. And it really was such an incredible meeting with international, state, and local mediation organization. Unfortunately, on that day, I lost my voice, but it was truly inspiring to meet them on Zoom and listen to their concerns and understanding their challenges. And today, our colleagues and I are here. We want to address some of those concerns. So we are seeking representatives from countries and mediation associations at both state and regional levels. Our intention is really to include everyone and ensure that we maintain the commitment of those who have already joined us. So the roundabout table of precedent exists to facilitate global collaboration, to address shared concern, and we want to really raise public awareness about mediation and hopefully enhance the skills of those members. So our ultimate goal is to foster global unity and involve influential leaders who can affect change at government, state, and regional level. And we want this organization to join our APFM organization, to embrace our mission and really be true part of something truly extraordinary. And again, Mr. Vikram, in your honor, we have created a special code, Vikram 2023, as a warm and welcoming invitation to join APFM. So by joining APFM, you'll have a chance to learn, collaborate, really meet lifelong friends, and grow as a mediator. I mean, this is where I've got the opportunity to meet Tracey-Leigh in South Africa, Steve in New York. And it's just truly been an honor to meet with them. So we're going to go ahead and start with, I know, Steve, you have short time, you have a flight to catch very soon. So I'm going to go ahead and start with your presentation.
Sure.
But Leyla, before Steve comes in, why can't the code be Mediator Vikram?
I'm sorry, why cannot what?
Why can't the code be Mediator Vikram? Why Vikram 2023? Mediator Vikram is what the brand is. The brand is Mediator Vikram.
Oh, would you like for us to change it to Mediator Vikram? That's not a problem by any means. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Absolutely. We'd be happy to honor it in any way you like.
And what the code actually provides is APFM has an annual conference in October with many speakers on the subject of family mediation as a means of helping promote skills, and in honor of you and in honor of everyone who is joining through your circle, that code Mediator Vikram New 2023 would provide an additional special 20% reduction for membership in APFM for the first year, and enable as well to attend the conference at a discounted price as well, to permit more people to become aware of it, and if they can benefit from it, to benefit. Even though I'm here as the president of APFM and also the vice president of the Professional Mediation Board of Standards, I wanted to give a little bit of information on what was gleaned from the second special roundtable of mediation presidents and leaders. And two items were clear in a way the most important part of what the various organizations wanted to hear and wanted to foster. One was questions about credentialing in mediation, and the Professional Mediation Board of Standards, which is a professional nonprofit board, is in the process of implementing meaningful standards for competency-based credentialing. Up until now, people in the United States and elsewhere could pay $50 and be certified by so many different mediation organizations. The certification lost its meaning because there isn't really any qualitative basis for it other than paying a fee and being certified. What the Professional Mediation Board of Standards has done is created a competency-based program where mediators who would like to develop their skills are able to take an assessment, both an examination as well as establishing competence through actual mediation experiences and evaluations to help in that respect. So that's something that is being done that hasn't been done before in the area of credentialing. The other aspect that was deemed important is having collaboration between the various organizations. Many organizations of various countries and states and regions felt isolated. They don't have the ability to readily share what's happening in one area with another, and it's important for mediators to know what's happening, what are the issues that are facing others, in order to help promote our own profession. And part of the concern is having a situation where other entities end up regulating our profession. There have been measures in California and other areas where there are boards, governing boards, administrative boards that are not comprised of mediators, looking to regulate what mediators can do and can't do. And many mediators feel it's important for mediators to self-regulate our own profession rather than be subject to regulation by outside bodies or regulatory agencies. So that's an additional concern that was raised. Basically, the goal is to help foster awareness of what's happening in other areas and to open mediation up so that the people who practice the craft and do it well can be recognized and can have a home and a place where they can develop more skills. But it's basically meant to open things up and to help diversify the field as well. So those are some of the initiatives, some of the things that are of importance. There's been established a Uniform Mediation Act that's been followed by, I believe it's something like 37 of the states that where there are certain concepts that all feel are very important and are sacrosanct to the practice: confidentiality of mediation communications, self-determination of the parties to chart their own destiny rather than being told what to do or how their agreement should pan out. So a lot of that is in motion, and I'm excited for the field and whatever can be done between the various organizations in terms of collaborating and bringing mediators together. That's I think to the benefit of the entire profession.
That's good, because the thing is that part of the World Mediation Circle, the concept was that create mediation circles. Of course, as communities and schools, but also on this aspect. So I will, I mean, in the sense, create one which is called the Family Mediation Circle. So it's the concept being that let's get those people who want to be part of it in both ways. I mean, for me, there are three categories: mediators, peacemakers, and the participants. So whoever feels that in relation to family mediation, we want to come together. So that was the idea. I mean, of course, there are things which I have spoken about, and I'm sure you've heard me enough about the part about certifications and things like that. It's more about the person. So it's interaction that will happen. And of course, my, in a way, my gauge for the people who I bring in. So that will happen. But the concept being this, that let's get everyone together. The only thing is, in terms of legislation, I think lots has to happen in countries, because this is what's people are hijacking mediation who have nothing to do with mediation. They don't even understand the process, and
Absolutely.
legislation comes through, and that legislation goes into directions which doesn't benefit mediation, because it has to be simple enough for people to understand. You don't need a lawyer to understand legislation. If you need a lawyer to understand legislation, then you've gone against mediation, because once you get into the lawyer's hands, that's the end of mediation. So I think that's what needs to be worked on, to create that uniform legislation. And to a certain extent, the UNCITRAL model law, it's been something that people have worked on globally, but everyone gets lost on the fact that that is for international commercial mediation. UNCITRAL had to create for that, because that's what they do. That's their only work, is international commercial mediation. But the language doesn't go against any other mediation. Domestic legislation can take care of that, that this can cover family mediation also. So I think we have a framework there which has to go out, because I've been saying that, look, anyone should be, you can appoint, you should be able to appoint anyone in the world as your mediator. And the only people who make mediators are the people in dispute. No one else makes mediators. No kind of certification, qualification can make mediators. The people in dispute can make anyone a mediator. That's the trust that they have. So that should not get affected. All the time, you should be able to be clear that that party self-determination that we talk about has to start from that basic level, that be able to make anyone a mediator. And then anywhere in the world that you get into a settlement agreement, it should be enforceable in any country, because the Singapore Convention everyone talks about. But why do we even need that convention as such, if domestic legislation in general should be able to take care of that aspect? Why should it be any? It's, look, I think the law is created by people who are stuck in that old time litigation, arbitration kind of thing. This is a different thing, is their settlement. They can do it wherever they want, with whoever they want, and just enforce it. Where's the problem in that? I mean, it's just being created into this complex web of legislation. And I mean, in India, we'll have about 7-8 different pieces of legislation which will talk about things. But we have a very good legislation. You have a look at it. We have something called conciliation, which was taken from the UNCITRAL conciliation rules 1980. Simple. So in terms of legislation, I think that's what we need to do about the World Mediation Circle, Family Mediation Circle. This is the kind of thing that you are creating a circle. So I would think that what you are doing comes part of the Family Mediation Circle that I'm trying to create, and let's get more people into that. So I think that's very nice. But the only person who hasn't come in is Tracey-Leigh. Tracey-Leigh, what's happening? It's too early in the morning for you to be talking to us.
No, I'm loving this conversation. I have my coffee.
Okay, good. So look, I tell you what happens is that you people, of course, have conferences and you have subscriptions. The only one who doesn't have all that is me. I've put it out there. Send a gift. No one did that. Become a patron. Okay, we had a handful of people who did that. So I think that part of it is what I have to work on. So I think the to be part of these circles, I want to put it out there, but I don't want to put a barrier to people coming in. So I did that gifting concept. So I'm putting that out there, that come in, because I don't want anyone to be left out only because of financial aspect. I mean, that should not be a reason. So the other thing that's being created is this skill development project. So you people have to be part of it. The idea being that, okay, whatever topic that you want to pick up, this conference is, of course, was supposed to be a teaser for that. So people get to know the person and what content this person has to give. And the skill development project, they take up that topic. And then if they want to charge for it, we'll find a way, the same way that let's not put an entry barrier, let people send a gift. So So all that is going to happen. So now, but now what is the
So
yeah.
Mr. Vikram, are you going to charge us for possibly for any future?
That's why look. That's why I say I would not want. I don't want to charge anyone for anything. I just want people to gift, because I spoke to this with Ken Cloak on one of the sessions. It's there about the gifting culture, and he quoted from a book, and I'm not literate enough to even quote what he quoted, so that has to be found there. But he spoke about, someone has written about this gifting culture, and he said, the other aspect of, you get a gift, you give the gift, you pass on the gift. So that's the culture I wanted to develop, which I still want to develop. Let's see how that works out. So everyone comes in.
We did provide 2 gifts to you today, or tonight here. One was the creator slide on your behalf, and then we created a code.
Oh, that's
a gift under in your honor.
I'm okay with that. Anyone, whatever they do for people, I'm just happy that, look, I said this when I started off. I said, my 1,000 reach 1,000. So the whole idea was that people get people together, which is what you're doing. And if 1,000 get 1,000 together, we have 1 million people out there. But of course, those million have to fall into, there are no standards otherwise, but the aspect of for those million, I want to be that common factor to see that they pass my test. So that's my certification. So I'm on one end saying I'm against certification, but I'm bringing in a certification in this way. So whatever, so I'm okay. But in your 1,000, you bring in your concept of, because finally it's a gauge of the individual, nothing else. Qualifications don't matter, it's wisdom. And wisdom doesn't come, it's not age, nothing else. It's the wisdom that a person has, and they're evolving all the time. So that gauge is what is required. So Steve has to say something. Yeah.
What you mentioned as far as lawyers, 2 thoughts. First of all, couples don't need lawyers in order to get married. So they shouldn't need or be required to have lawyers in order to dissolve the marriage that they entered into in the way that they would like to in their own agreement. That was one thought. And the other thought, piggybacking on what you had mentioned regarding lawyers, for the longest time, I've been involved in the field of mediation since the early 80s. I remember when the biggest opponents of mediation were attorneys who didn't practice mediation, who didn't know about it, who felt it was a threat to their practices. And there was so much that was done by the organized bar associations in various places to try to tamp down mediation and to prevent mediators from being able to do a wide variety of the things that they're able to do now. Now that the public has caught on the benefits of mediation, we're seeing lawyers increasingly market their practices as offering mediation as well. And a number of the lawyers who started doing that, I'm familiar with them. They don't have the skills that many mediators have in terms of being able to help couples reach an agreement because of the background, because of their practice, and because of the way they're doing things. So they're starting to come around, and judges as well, but it wasn't until mediation started becoming a field of its own, and the public realizing, my gosh, this is of great benefit to people, and starting to demand mediation services, that the organized bar decided, instead of fighting it, they would try to join it. But a lot of mediators call themselves mediators and don't really do mediation. They might do shuttle diplomacy. They might be knocking heads together, but it's not the mediation as we recognize it. So I just wanted to honor what you said and support that, because I've seen that over the decades in terms of the practice here in the States as well.
Well, this was the idea to look. This started off from the first symposium that I did, which was 2 years back, which was mediation in our culture and traditions. And almost every session I spoke about this. I said, dig a little deeper into every country. everyone talks about the US being the space. Hi, Huma. US being a space where mediation has been there and everything, of course, is very good at all that. But I said, let's dig a little deeper. So we dug a little deeper. I did. And the lawyers control it. Hi, Shireen. Shireen is with us. Yes, she's with us. So we dug a little deeper. So the lawyers control mediation in the US. The mediators themselves are getting lost in the process. People come in to, if they, of course, they have the passion. They come in and they want to mediate. They don't get work. They get into the court system that the lawyers will recognize us and we'll get private work. Doesn't happen. Disillusioned, get out. New lot comes in. Who are the people who are making the money? The people who do the training courses, the ones who do the certifications, all that is happening. Today's message. This is today's message from a person in Florida. She, of course, she's been on my shows, Elise. You will watch her shows. And so her message today: I'm so tired of doing unpaid therapy work. It's taking longer to get mediations than I thought it would. So in every what happens in Romney, in the first symposium I did, there was Constantia from Brazil. She said, in my lifetime, I want to see that I can be a full-time mediator. So I kept quoting her. My mission is Constantia should become a full-time mediator. Then there is now Elise has become that person for this conference, to make sure that Elise doesn't get disillusioned and goes out. So that's the other person is Huma. Huma's here. Huma came into the whole whatever I was doing by seeing some post somewhere. She said, what's this guy doing? She got in touch and she thought mediation is some rocket science somewhere. Let's find out about it. All I did was I told her, this is how simple it is. One person helps people to resolve their dispute and doesn't impose a solution on them. It's as simple as that. It clicked with her. She says, my father does it in the village. She's from Afghanistan. And her father in her village does that. Her brother does it in family matters. So, I mean, she understood everything about mediation. She knows everything about mediation. And of course, she has the mediator mindset. So that's how simple it is. There are people out there. So this is someone I've been talking about. That's what we have to bring out. These people with the mediator mindset, don't complicate it in their minds. Don't make it into this technical things, these models and neutrality and all that. I mean, I don't want to use the almost abuse almost came out. No, I cut it there. Who is even interested to know that the user wants to resolve that dispute? Don't complicate it. But what we haven't done is, Tracey-Leigh hasn't told us about herself. And then, of course, Huma and Shireen will tell us about themselves. You want to do a little basic introduction, Tracey-Leigh?
Thank you. That's been very interesting, Vikram. So I am started off as an attorney, still have an attorney side to my practice in that I look at reproductive law, surrogate motherhood, but 80% of my practice is family and divorce mediation. And I must say, so I learned in the mid-1990s how to mediate. I was still a very new attorney or candidate attorney at the time. But it was only in 2010 that South Africa had made this transition legislatively in one of our most important pieces of legislation, and that was the law pertaining to children. So there was this big piece of legislation that dealt with every single area dealing with children. And in that piece of legislation, there was reference to the need for mediation. And so from my side, decided to take the jump and plunged myself into the work of being a full-time family and divorce mediator. I cannot say that it was plain sailing. I do want to say that there were times when I thought this is absolute career suicide, because I sat waiting for the mediations and having to refer matters out. I decided I'm either going to be a hired gun or I'm going to be a mediator. I can't be both. And so my choice was, I want to sit with people and I want them to see the advantages that come to a family that is in conflict and a family that is disintegrating, the advantage that comes when the couple and the family decide they are going to determine how their matter is going to proceed, how they're going to do the dissolution. And it was a good choice, but it's been a long slog trying to build up that practice. So yeah, that's what I do. I'm passionate about this field. I think I'm particularly concerned for children and the impact of children when there's breakdown, irrespective of where that breakdown is. And I think that that's a universal concern for us as mediators. And so I always say to clients, there is always the third party that is sitting in on our mediation, and that is the children. And I do believe that my clients, when they're sitting in on that mediation, both of them are coming from a good place, what they believe is the best interests of their kids. Sometimes we have to help them see where's the connect point on what each of them is saying is in that child's best interest. But I love what I do, and I think that this is a wonderful profession to be in, and it's one where we can give back. I think the only requirement for me, or the overriding requirement for me with anyone that's mediation, so whether we call it advancement of the post-course or post-training advancement, whatever, or upskilling, is do no harm. And that for me is a critical thing, because I think that mediators are in a more powerful position than they actually realize when they're sitting with a couple, and often, or a family. And often it's a case of, in that family scenario in particular, is people haven't been there before. They haven't walked down that road. They don't quite know what to expect, or how is this going to unfold. And I think that mediators have the power to change a direction or the course of a family. And I do believe that they need to exercise that power very carefully. Most mediators don't really maybe understand how powerful they are. And so my whole thing is, when I'm speaking to mediators, is do no harm. And so I don't know what else to say, Vikram, but that's me.
You said enough. You've said enough, Tracy. That's okay. You said enough. Well, I'll tell you one interesting thing. You said that in the mediation, the children are missing. And maybe, of course, it's a space they may or may not be part of. It doesn't matter. But the indigenous peoples symposium that I did, interesting thing that came out in Native Americans, in mediations, they have an empty chair. That there are the ancestors who are also part of this mediation. So they have an empty chair for them. So those people might not be there physically, but they're part of that. So interesting things come out from different parts of the world. But I think another important thing is, which I have, of course, one part we'll discuss with Shireen, because we had a discussion yesterday on artificial intelligence. On that part, I'll talk about it. But I think what we have to put out there, I mean, in terms of course, qualifications and everything, a lot of people are working on that, but that feeling empathy and in some way showing empathy. Okay, I mean, it might not be connected to what we are talking about, but because Shireen is here, it struck me that I should point it out, that the people that we need are the ones who feel empathy. The showing empathy part and training people to show empathy, let's leave that to the machines. But Shireen doesn't agree. Maybe we'll get her in. But so what I'm saying is, try to get people, when you're doing what you're doing, those people, and of course, Leyla said, the humanistic approach, working from the heart, soul, spirituality part of it, those people who really have that in them. And they're there. They're all there. They're all there. So maybe not connected. But Huma, please, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, good morning to all. Today I am so happy to participate in this session. And thank you so much, Vikram, especially Leyla and other friends. As you said, yeah, at the beginning, I don't know anything about mediation. What is the mediation? And when I was small, and actually I was in my village community, you know, the conflict, it is a part of our life, and we have a social life. Of course, conflicts, it happen. I remember exactly when this conflict happened in my community. as I told you earlier before, these elder people, how to solve this problem. And then after that, I work in a organization as a social organizer. And social organizer actually is responsibility like as a mediator. For example, my project was in a remote area. In remote area, it was so difficult because all the people, they are so religious, they have a traditional culture. It was so difficult. How can we should implement this project? Or for example, when these people disagree, how can we should bring them or solve this problem? So I have this idea, but I don't know about this mediation. So when I joined this session and this program, I actually know, okay, some things is this conflict, or we can say programs happen in my community, and how can these people solve this? Even this my work experience. Somehow this actually related to this mediation.
Can I ask, Huma, what's the name of the program in your home country?
Yeah, it was about maybe you know about AKF organization, or we can call Balakhane organization.
Balakhane, it's interesting. Balakhane, okay.
Yeah, you can.
And do you have?
Speak Persian?
Yes, I speak Farsi. Yes.
Yeah, it's a little in here. This سازمانی که هست مربوط به اسماعیلی خان، به خود آقا خان هم که الان زنده هستن در کشور کانادا فکر کنم.
Sorry, we're speaking Farsi. I apologize.
I tell you, in India we have this concept: if you don't understand someone, you say, "Are you talking in Farsi?" So we have that concept here. No, but I think from Huma, what she said, that of course she did not know about mediation. Actually, we have to connect them to the word that is what they are familiar with for the process. We're getting too lost in the word, and the process is getting left out. So whatever people understand in relation to the process, whatever word they have, let's use that. But of course, let's get Shireen in, because Shireen is waiting for us. Yes, Shireen. Shireen also does this lip reading thing. Yes, that she does that.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. And I want to introduce myself. I came into mediation at the end of a career in banking, and I've been extensively involved with NGOs. And the reason that I came into it, because I saw how people suffered, especially in the banking sector, how much they suffered when it came to settlement of their loans. And in our country, the legal system takes a very long time. So it's bad for them, and it's bad for the institution as well. So to try and overcome this, and to tell people that it is better that you work your way out of this rather than let the court decide. Because when you're mediating, as he said, empty chair, when you are mediating, you can bring your wife and children, adult children, into the mediation process. So they understand. It's not something that the court has passed, your lawyer has projected the case, and the court has found justice, a decree against you. You have, at least it makes it easier, much easier for the family who are also involved. Because when the money goes or the business goes, it's the wife and the children who suffer. And that's the reason that I came to it. In the NGO sector, like as Huma is doing, informally it exists. You know, it's practiced extensively. In fact, one of the organizations that I'm with, the Human Rights, Bangladesh Human Rights, Enforcement of Human Rights, they do about 100 mediation cases a year, mainly for family disputes. But that's not publicized. It doesn't come into any, court documentation or into any formal legal system or formal mediation. It's totally unpublicized. But that's the way, and that's the way people at the ground level settle their disputes. So it is practiced. It is known, but when you come into the formal sector, like I'm with the Center for Bangladesh International Arbitration, so when it comes to the formal sector, then people are very skeptical. It's a trust issue. So one of the things when we first started to do it, one of the things, letters going out in legal language to two parties who were involved in the dispute, the bank and the party, was having no effect. When the letter was written in our own language, in Bangla, then we immediately got a response, right? But then one of the questions to overcome the mental hurdle was, how can I trust you? How do I know that you sitting there or trying to mediate will be on my side and it'll be impartial, and the big guys or the big banks won't be running the show from the back? So that is a whole different mind concept to get over. In the meantime, what is being done to popularize mediation? As you've seen, I train, but I don't train for, the certification process. What I do is run the awareness building courses. So it's not the 40 hours, it's a 1 day, because people can't spare the time. It's a 1 day or maximum 2 days where you run them through sort of live or make-believe cases. And the people who are participating are people in the army and the people in the police force and various levels of society. So they get to understand that, look, it's really not all that difficult. The second question we came about is that, how is this legal? What is, Huma will know, and I think Leyla will also know, or you will also know, Vikram. We have something called a solenama. I understand it's in an Arabic way, which means it's a closure to a dispute. So we have a court accepts a solenama. So you can do a mediation, you can write out a settlement, and you can present it to the court. But as the lawyers say, where is the evidence of dispute? So now we have to work towards that hurdle, and maybe then it'll be a lot easier. And as you said earlier, I think Tracy said, there is not much money to be made in this. So for new people coming in who think who'll get a certificate and they think they can make a living out of it, no, at this stage, we are nowhere near that process. For somebody
Shireen,
like me, yeah, please go ahead.
Where are you located?
I'm in Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Where are you?
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh.
Oh, in Bangladesh. Okay, okay.
Yeah, we have 3 million cases stuck in the courts.
I for some reason I thought you were in Iran because of your name, but
No, we have 3 million
you're-
cases in the courts. So it takes
Yeah.
years to rush through the court.
Okay, Shireen,
But if you tell the lawyers, listen, mediate, they're skeptical. No, we are going to lose our income. But no, they are not, because they're going to be involved in the process. And it's not as if commercial mediation or the disputes will stop. No, the disputes will not stop. So there's, there will be their neighborhood disputes, their disputes in apartment buildings, their family disputes. There's so many kinds of things maybe mediators can come in. Just the idea, the acceptance rate to take hold is not going as fast as it should, And I try and project that and said, look, we've changed our whole culture. The last 10, 15 years, we've gone through a social revolution. People are wearing pants, the women, everything has changed. But when you tell them to switch from formal legal system to mediation, it's like a lot of negativity. So I'm working on that hurdle, and there are a few of us who are working on it, but it's still not taking hold as fast as it should. I mean, I heard recently that the law minister the country is going to sign the Singapore Convention on Mediation for commercial disputes. Let's see.
But
So
Shireen,
thank you, Vikram, for the time.
there is so much that has come out from what you said. The A word, we don't use the A word here. Okay. You know what the A word is?
Arbitration.
Yes, we don't even connect it to that, because for some reason, when you say mediation, the A word comes out. So
Yeah.
disassociate from that A word totally. The organizations say that we are doing mediation, but their name only has the A word in it. Doesn't even have
Yes.
mediation in it. So it's very, we have to change a lot of things. But of course, like you said, lots of, in a way, a revolution has happened in your country. But that's why I call this the resolution revolution. We have to do it here also. But the trust part is what you said about the trust part. That's why we try to tell people about this. Of course, this World Mediation Circle. The whole concept is that up till we don't get people at the grassroots level from the communities out there the people whom they already trust or they can trust, because there's a word of mouth thing which will happen because they're already using this process. It's not that it's alien to them, they're using the process. The people who are doing it are not looking at it from their livelihood perspective.
Yes.
It's a social standing they might have. Some places religious heads are doing it, but we still have to be careful that they are not doing the A word, they are doing mediation, because they're not forcing a solution on them. So that really needs to be put out. And when you said large banks and a small person to have the trust, that word neutrality that people use, again, according that's a misused concept, because if you as you watch the the earlier sessions with Bernie Mayer, he's written about neutrality and about the fact that does a mediator need to be neutral? And of course he's talking in terms of social change and all that, but that's what we have to put out, that the mediator comes in with a lot of responsibility, and neutrality, it doesn't fit into that sometimes and a lot of times. So we have to, that's why a whole symposium on neutrality happened. And then you said about Sulenama. Very nice. In our law, the conciliation has been translated into Hindi as Suleh. It's called Suleh. So we have a legislation on Suleh. The person is called a Sulehkar, something that people can connect with, because that's a word that they use. So it's all there. It just has to go out to the user. The mediation world, like for me also, getting the mediation world together is all very good, and I'm doing it. Now the World Mediation Circle, we go to the user. So Bangladesh mediation circles have to be created in every community, every school, every organization. Let's get the user in, and we will not use the complicated words. We'll keep it simple. We'll tell the legislators, keep your language simple, that the person in the village understands it. Your whole drafting has to be from their perspective, because that is pure empowerment. Our law empowers them enough that Sulenama is actually as good as a court decree, and they don't have to leave their village. We have the law. We have everything here, but there are people who, we were just discussing, I don't know were you part of that, we will hear that the people who are legislating are actually don't even understand the process. They're making it complicated. We have a mediation bill which went into parliament, the most complicated piece of legislation. So lots of things, and the vested interests come in. Institutions want to come in. They want to they want to call it pre-litigation mediation, which I feel is not the right term to use, because we have a law on pre-institution mediation. So of course that's a little bit of an issue there, but they want institutions to come in because they pick up the Italian model. Italian model, does it even work for them? That's one thing. Of course, Italy says it's really working for us, but they got institutions in. And what is the population there? What there'll be, what, 60 billion maybe? We are talking about 1 billion, 1.4 billion people. We won the race on this, Shireen. We won the race on the population. The other race we won from you is the number of matters pending in courts. You're 3 million, we are 50 million. We do there. But when you said it takes so much time in court, I think that aspect also is very relative. For us, long is 14 years average. Some countries, 3 years is long for them. Some countries 7, 9. So I think long has to be put in against with the years it takes, and of course how people perceive long. So those are definitely issues. We have everything going for us. And then Shireen says that if you can do it as your livelihood, maybe you're mistaken today. Imagine we have everything. We have legislation, we have the need, but the mediator is only one being left out, because the mediator is being misused by the courts. Free. They have to talk about free, because in the court system, their whole responsibility is that they're supposed to give justice, and a court case is something that they're supposed to decide, which they can't do for whatever reason, their inefficiency. So being the most inefficient institution in the world is telling people, go there, we are forcing you to go there. And because it is not something that's part of their constitutional response, people will protest, because if they have to pay for something, a barrier that you are putting in between because of your inefficiency, so you should do it free. So the mediator is going to do it free. What I'm trying to say is Stephen and Leyla and Tracey-Leigh are trying to put family mediators together. The best way to work for family mediators is tell them, don't go to courts. Don't do it for free. That's when mediation takes off. Value yourself first. If you don't value yourself, people are not going to value mediation. We have to be, of course, I'm not part of the court system. I was very clear about that this is not the way mediation is going to develop. So there are lawyers who take that, okay, they have a few hours, maybe sometimes they're free, they go into the court annex mediation centers, they'll spend some time. They have a passion. They have the passion, they want to do it, they enjoy doing it, but that can't be livelihood for them. And that's not the long-term thing. So we have to be very sure, we have to tell people out there, it might not be good for you, maybe in terms of your relationship with the judges, because if we say we don't do it, the judges, because you're practicing in the courts, and for them, they're connecting to the judges, thinking they will be elevated to the bench because the judges will be happy with them and they'll get recognized and we'll become judges tomorrow. For that little thing, they're destroying mediation. Of course, the institution, the judiciary is destroying mediation. The lawyers who do it as free mediation are destroying it. So we have to work on that. If a collective process has to happen, people have to understand that free is not working. Just make sure that goes out. So Steve, put that message out where whoever you meet, let's stop going to court for free. This is what we charge. This is what we get. This is the basic we need. And then it develops from there.
Yeah, then take it on.
You know, Vikram, for like 5 years when I started my practice, I was doing so many different volunteer work in different courts and doing it for free. And definitely, I always had this mindset of why are we doing this for free? But I think I was so passionate about learning about mediation. I feel like the only way for me to learn was just throw myself into practicing how to mediate between people. So I think it was helpful, but we should definitely change. I think we need to promote culture of mediation, you know, like establishing programs within schools as early as when the kids are, I don't know, in second grade, make it part of the curriculum in school, and you know, maybe request a meeting with school administrator and organization leaders to discuss the potential benefit of mediation programs. We need to promote the culture of mediation at grassroots, like you talked about. That's
look,
my 2 cents.
Whatever you've thought about, whatever you have wanted to do, you will come to this thing after me speaking to people from around the world. You'll come to the mediation circle. You'll say, that is the way to go. We are not here to teach anyone anything. They know everything about it. So when you speak about the schools, all we have to do is create the environment where they don't need an authority figure to come in. The problem is the colonial mindset, and that's why the symposium on colonization was there, that colonial mindset was put into people's head for hundreds of years, that it is the authority figure that you have to go to because it was the colonizer's person. You have to go there. You can't do things yourself. So of course, you people don't like this aspect of me talking about it, but I have to talk about this. The colonizer did the divide and rule concept, and that divide and rule meant that you should not sit together. That's their whole concept. So
let me ask you a question, Vikram. Would you go to a surgeon to do surgery on you, or do you think it's important that you look at their credentials, that they have enough, you know, I understand in terms of mediation, there's a lot about the heart and mind and soul, I get that. But in terms of, if I wanted to go have a procedure done, I want to make sure that they have the credentials for me to go to them, right?
I'll tell you, so I'll tell you credentials. I'm telling you that yesterday we spoke about it. Shireen was there. The part I was speaking to some villagers in India, teachers, school teachers. It started off with some person having gone there and told them about mediation, connected it to a village body that is elected. And that word, of course, you might not be familiar with, but we are familiar with panchayat. The word panchayat is used. And that body actually takes decisions or makes decisions and forces it on people. And even our Supreme Court connected that word with mediation. So what does the villager understand? One other person has come to force some decision on us. So goes totally against mediation. So after a little discussion with them, explaining the process with them, they told me about people in their village who actually do this. They are trusted. They have they're actually delivering. So they're delivering. So if it's your credentials, they're trusted. And trust doesn't come in one kind of what maybe you might meet someone. Trust comes from their conduct over years. That's when the impartiality, if you talk about, they've trusted that person, they've observed the person, and that's why the trust comes. Then wisdom. That wisdom part of it is also something they want that in that person. They've looked at all that. So let's start from there. These are people who exist. It's not that we have to create anyone. They exist. Now, what hasn't happened is putting them together and saying that let's create an environment that This becomes your go-to method of resolving disputes. And of course, in the process, if we can tell people, okay, I spoke about gifting culture, start with them gifting, which happens. There are communities in this world where these mediators are gifted things. Maybe they might get a goat, they might get vegetables, they might get cheese, but that gifting culture is already happening, but it doesn't become livelihood for them because it's not in cash. So that doesn't make these people do it on a full-time basis, maybe. So we create that environment. It's going to be a slow process. Doesn't matter if it's not full-time for them, because they already they have that, maybe a social standing, whatever it might be. The important thing is people should experience mediation. That's what has got lost out over the years. That layer has gone out. And again, yesterday's conversation with Shireen about artificial intelligence. If you want to train mediators, instead you train machines. And if you can train a machine to show something like empathy, do it. Doesn't matter. If that's the starting point, let it happen. Yesterday, what we did was, while we were talking, we did a chat GPT that Shireen and one person was there. Both of them have a dispute on some books that were supposed to be supplied to Shireen. They got delayed. We did a little experiment there. The nice things that chat GPT has to say, that those nice things to say, those people are not available. That layer has gone out. You dispute, lawyer. Lawyer doesn't say nice things. Lawyer makes a nice notice. Yeah, Leyla.
But Vikram, so let's say if someone wants to gain emotional intelligence, someone wants to gain wisdom, and are you saying that there's no hope for them to learn this? I just want to make sure I understand you clearly.
The day we can do that, we can in some way teach wisdom or teach emotional intelligence. It's not going to happen. It has to come from within. And it's not something that can't happen over time. Experiences do it, circumstances do it. It could be anything that happens, but it comes from within at some point of time. And if we could have done this to people, yeah, Leyla.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. I guess I just want to understand, make sure I'm understanding clearly. If someone, let's say they come from a very troubled background, but they're willing to go through therapy, let's say they're 20 or 30, and up to 20 or 30, they have made really wrong decisions. But at age 30, they've gone through therapy, they've gone through self-growth to be the best version of themselves. And if they've gone through the work, is it possible that through all that work, now they develop empathy, and now they have developed wisdom, and maybe they have the ability to control their negative impulses? Is that something that's possible?
Absolutely. Life experiences change you like that. In one instant, suddenly the life experiences can change you, but it comes from within. If I sit with Leyla for the next 500 hours and I tell her, this is what is a feeling of empathy, you will never understand. It comes, and this is an experience concept. It is not a words concept. It's not a theoretical concept. So if I could do this to people, though, let's leave that to spiritual gurus. We don't know whether they do it or not, how that whole industry works. But maybe if they can do it and find something, I don't know. I haven't seen that really happening, that transformation within. Transformation outside, that is what is taught to you. That if someone says this, then you say this. And this was happening in our session on empathy and mediation. Someone was going through this, that this is how you react if someone says this. I'm saying machines can do a better job of that. Let them do it then. Because what we are putting out there, first of all, we don't even know what is being fed to these people who are being created as mediators. We don't even know that. So if we have the best content in the world that machines can pick up and they can show, and there was an experiment done, and if you have a look at it, you find a link maybe. A machine was someone who was showing empathy to someone, and they were so satisfied with that. The person was so satisfied, more satisfied than when they went to a human. So it's something that we have to learn to live with, that machines can go to an extent and maybe more. We don't know where they can go. So I think if you want to create, do let the machines do it, because look at the scale. If you can train one machine, you've got now 8 billion mediators out there, because everyone can access that machine. So aren't we better off that way? Rather than saying that small group, we'll make you a mediator, we'll push empathy into you. Can you do that? If you could do that in 40 hours, leave everything else. Just on schools, that's the only thing that should happen. 40 hours will change your life. You'll become, they talk about standards and all that. In 40 hours, you'll become an ethical person. Suddenly, you will be able to provide mediation in the best format, best way. Let's not stop fooling people. That's an industry. Yes, Steve.
You know, it's
Yes.
interesting. We talk about this 40-hour training as though it's some God-created perfect methodology for training people. A lot of people don't even realize how it came to be. Many years ago, when the first trainers were starting to train mediators, and they created a training program, they actually had put everything in that they felt was needed in order to imbue, at least as far as educational understanding for mediators. It was supposed to be a 6-day program that ran for 50 hours. And what ended up happening is the hotel was booked with another group that was coming in. So they chopped a day off of it. So they said, you're limited to the 5 days. So they ended up cutting things off, putting together a 40-hour program. And that's become the gold standard. Experience, you talk about, nothing can replace experience in mediating, in learning what works, in learning what doesn't, in developing rapport with people. It comes from within. And there's so much emphasis on the 40-hour program as a benchmark. It leaves a lot unstated as far as many of the other attributes that mediators bring to the table. You've got tribal leaders who mediate in their villages and do a beautiful job without having. So I understand what you're saying and where you're coming from. There's a lot more to it than just a basic 40-hour training program, and you've got it, and go do it.
And this aspect about when I say machines, everyone comes with this aspect of the human touch, because Michelle is there writing a comment on this. But if we rely on AI machine to display empathy, humans will be lost. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Humans are being lost because we say that we are creating mediators. Ken Cloak in the first episode, that was the first thing I put out on YouTube, Evolution of a Mediator series. He said, he was a judge. He says, I went for a lecture on mediation, and in 2 minutes flat, my life changed. And I told him also, I'm saying it changed because he connected with it. He was that kind of person. It is not that lecture suddenly made that whole change. He suddenly found enlightenment. It doesn't happen that way. Can you connect with it? A lot of people say, oh, I went for a training, it was really good. Whoever says that is actually connecting with it because it comes from within. It's part of them. So it's nice. I'm saying people experience a certain, maybe a theoretical, a book, or for me, I put out these videos only for that. And that's why I put it out for free, that if it connects with one person sitting in one corner of the world and says, oh, this is me. We found that person. The person has actually found themselves. And that's what we need, that people find themselves. And when you talk about trainings and certifications, everyone says we are doing this because the user should have a good experience. So we are trying to put all that in place in terms of everything that we're telling them. I'm saying these people who are out there who are actually doing this work are giving the user the best experience because the user is using them time and time again. So these people are the ones we have to bring out, because if we are starting from user experience, then this skill development project, first step is I have the content out there. There are more than 600 hours of content out there, enough for them to make 2-3 years for them to watch it. So there is a lot to learn, and they learn much more because in a training program, they'll be told, mediator should be neutral, said, gone out, go on out, keep repeating this. And I said, let's discuss that neutrality word. So there must be about 20-30 hours of people discussing neutrality itself. One word itself, there is so much to discuss. We are sending out people into this world who do not understand that basic concept, and they go on repeating it. Legislation, luckily, has not used neutrality, has used impartiality, which is also debated. omnipartiality, multi-partiality, all those things. Why are we, I'm saying, why are we confusing the user? Why are we making it so complicated for them? Yes, Tracey-Leigh. Tracey-Leigh, please.
So I'm loving, thank you so much, Vikram. I'm loving this conversation. There's a part of me that feels though, it's like, I feel as if we are ants trying to push down a wall. The wall or the gate, we've spoken about this before. Attorneys, the legal system is the gatekeeper. So we've just got to, I think we've just got to balance things out somewhat. As long as the law is the place where people are going to resolve their disputes, and the law then says go back and try and mediate or gives it as an option. As long as the law is in place, our situation, and I think the constraint for the mediator, so the actual practicing practitioner, is that they need to have some kind of accreditation, because if the clients go into court, the mediation, let's say the agreement for whatever reason breaks down, and so they've mediated, there was an agreement, there's no longer an agreement. The question is, who was that mediator? And it brings that mediator into that legal arena where they should never be. So on the one hand, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm 100% in agreement. But I'm also alert that we have a legal system, so we need to have mediators that are properly trained, that if they are called into question or how they worked, they can stand and they can say, I have been trained, I know how to mediate. Judge, this is what happened. If that is the critical thing that they call upon to answer to. The other thing, though, Vikram. So on the one hand, I'm hearing that. On the other hand, I'm so alert. We're talking about neutrality. I think what makes a mediator is, on the one hand, what you're saying, trust. What creates trust is confidentiality. So we're not, I think that part of me thinks that we have focused on mediator be neutral, and then there's the question of, can mediators even be neutral? Can a human being be neutral? I think the question or the focus should rather be mediator be confidential, because when you are confidential and couples can come and they can speak, or people, whether it's a family in distress, Shireen, who are coming, and you've got the big guys, and there's all these issues. But if there is somebody there that they can sit and they can say, these are the issues, and there's a trust that is built because there's confidentiality that is not going to go into the legal arena. I think that is a critical thing. And my third point is to say,
You can't do that. You can't do that. Third point, we have to come to those 2 points have to be answered.
Okay, I'll be fast.
We're going to go through the third point one by one, because there's so much to tell you there, because we'll let 1 point. So let's start with the first point. You said lawyers.
Then we'll talk the whole morning.
We have enough time. You can take the next 5 hours of my life. I'm okay with it. Let's start with the basic, lawyers being the gatekeepers. You have been a colony. We've been a colony. It's been put in our head. Disputes are resolved in courts and lawyers have to be part of it. We have to break that mindset, Tracey-Leigh. You have to be able to, it's not going to be easy for you. It's not going to be easy for the millions of people, billions maybe, who've been put into their head for hundreds of years. The children grow up in an environment where they go to an authority figure. They have already been programmed. You'll be surprised, because I have had a conversation with a particular child who, yes, online, it's recorded. I had that conversation. His father was there. He was part of a show. And I asked that child that, supposing there is a fight between your friends, would you in some way help them resolve it? He says, no, I won't do it. My teacher won't like it. That's programmed into a 7-year-old child. So it is a mindset. First of all, disputes don't have to go to courts and lawyers don't have to be part of it. Mediations, lawyers don't have to be part of it. They might be experts in law and they might be called in, when a legal point has to be discussed, they don't have to be part of the process. Yesterday, or I don't know, Sevil was there from Turkey. She is a lawyer, and in Turkey, interestingly, lawyers, only lawyers can be mediators. And look, that's where the absurdity happens. She said a settlement agreement is drafted. It has to go to court, so it should go through a lawyer. I said, damn good. A lawyer comes in at the end of the process when you're drafting it. Just because that end of the process, a lawyer has to be used, the lawyer has to now sit in the process. It is a misunderstanding of the process itself. If it is about rights, then obviously it's not mediation. That's what litigation was all about. It's about a lot more. And that lot more has to come out. And of course, lawyers, they have the mindset, and they in some way you want to bring them as participants. That's your wish. Not an issue. I mean, it's just an individual coming in, not a lawyer coming in as to come and fight about the law. So I think we have to get that out of the picture. It's going to be difficult for you, Tracey-Leigh. It's going to be difficult for a lot of people who have been brought up in this world, and most of them, because largely they have been colonies. I don't know if anyone got left out of the colonization bit, but largely that mindset. Of course, the colonies itself, the colonizer itself. Let's look at the colonizer itself. Let's look at the UK. A colonizer has, of course, if you look at mediation, has it taken off there? Not even there, because if they gave that system to the world, they picked up that system themselves also. That mindset is there also. 18,000 certified mediators in the US, in the UK, 500 I work. So it's an issue with the system that has been created. Lawyers come into disputes, and we have to keep that out. So that's going to happen. It's going to be a revolution. It's going to take its time. And what is the hurry? In terms of formalized mediation, 50 years you talk about, and today I have a message coming from a person who's wanting to start out, already getting disillusioned. She just kind of put a practice together. So what use is all that 50 years? Let another 50 years happen, not a problem, but let's go down to the grassroots, create that culture from that. Let it take its time. I mean, okay, in our lifetime, okay, maybe not. But if we can put things in place for the world, let's do it. But let's not fall into that existing trap. It's a trap that is sold to you. It is something that you'll have to break your mindset totally. It's not going to be easy for you as a mediator itself. It's not easy. Think of the user. For the user, it's going to be such a difficult thing. I contact a lawyer when I have a dispute. No, you don't contact a lawyer. You contact the other person. That's what you do. And if you can't do it, you have a peacemaker. That's why part of this world mediation, you have peacemaker. Peacemaker gets you people together. Cannot resolve it, get a mediator in. Cannot resolve it, okay, whatever other methods there are, court system, or you want to go in for an A word, you want to go there, or there are various other methods. There is neutral evaluation. There are a lot of methods. Why do we think of mediation? Litigation. No, there were lots of ways in between. So let's do it step by step. So that's what we have put out there. First, we don't have those people who reach out to the other person, ego issues or whatever. So that's a certain aspect of people's development. Can it be spiritual development or the heart, soul, whatever aspect, to reach out to the other person? So that's something that has to be put into place. Second is, if they can't do it, there are people who have the skill of getting people together. The peacemakers, what I say, they'll get lost, and they are getting lost. So if we get those people out. Again, yesterday's discussion with Mohammed was there. He's from Morocco, and I had someone from Morocco in that first symposium, and he said in the cities in Morocco, the divorce rates are so high, you can't even imagine how high they are, because that layer of people whom you went to, those wise people, the ones with wisdom as you had, that layer is gone in cities. There is no connection of that. So the one role of mediators would be to get communities together. First, create communities, then comes social pressure. Then comes the aspect of, for that social pressure, you want to settle, and it is for the larger good of your community and society. It has to come from within. It's a lot of work there, but it is easy to do because people connect with it. They connect with it, but no one connects them with it. So why this mediation circle that I talk? Just one sec, Steve. Just one. The mediation circle I talk about, politics, advocacy, activism has a lot of funding. That's in those are industries by themselves. We are creating a space where people can have conversations. They can have objective conversations. They're sitting together to solve things. So just not even personal disputes. It could be community disputes. It could be disputes with, like in Peru, they've done excellent work where communities are affected by mining projects. Excellent work they've done in doing these mediations with large mining companies and large communities. So a stadium is taken up. Of course, we want to use confidentiality. There's no concept of confidentiality. All the entire community is there. And good part is during the COVID, they had the government officials on screen. The mediator is in the stadium. He was there, Luis Ore. You've seen a lot of shows of his. He's taken us through the process. So there is work to happen at various levels. We are getting, there is such a myopic view of mediation that has developed over time. Confidentiality, yesterday again, Shireen was there. I spoke about these people in the village who exist, who doing it. While they're doing mediations, young people or whoever wants to sits in those mediations. They're learning right there from real mediations happening in front of them. Property disputes in villages don't have that confidentiality. We are getting lost in a certain world that has been created on mediation. We have to open ourselves to mediation in the world. So I think that part, sorry, Steve, please.
I think the big sleeping giant in all of this is a lack of public awareness and the growing public awareness of mediation as a wonderful option for resolving disputes is something that we're so much further ahead now. We have a long way to go still, but mediation is more of a household word than it was 20, 30 years ago. I'd like it to be even more of a household word 10 years from now, where people who are experiencing disputes think of mediation rather than lawyer or litigation as the primary focus for resolving disputes if they can't resolve them amongst themselves. And
but how long, first of all, you tell us how long away do you have to reach to go to the airport? If you have to, you have to rush out, because I can see from that it's reaching that I want to get out of this conversation. So please.
But I've done many mediations, some where attorneys were present, where they insisted on being present, and it adds additional issues where the attorneys need to present their sides so that the clients feel like they're earning their keep before the clients are even allowed to express themselves. And in many situations don't, and it's the attorneys. So that creates more of a difficulty. There are still many mediators who are able to mediate with attorneys present. I much prefer dealing with couples directly, but I think getting the word out to the public as far as this being the a much better option for all the reasons that we know that it is key in terms of promoting mediation, and it might not trickle down. It also needs to start from the ground up with the public being aware that this exists and that they have a choice for resolving disputes that way and going towards it. So
look, I tell you, if Steve, I started with that. I wanted that to happen. Let's create awareness. Then I decided maybe we are going wrong if we do that, because if we don't have those people with the mediator mindset available to them, it is no use, because we'll be creating a demand, but you won't have those people there. So that's why I said step by step, identify those with the mediator mindset first, because that is the foundation of taking mediation forward. On the other end, when I spoke about the machine part of it, only because if you think training can do it, do it. All these people who are doing the training, all of you concentrate on training the machine if you do not need the human touch to it. You need the human touch. You have to bring out those humans which are out there. So starting point, let's keep it that, because we might spread the word, but if they don't get the good experience, that's the end of mediation, because there are too many vested interests sitting there who don't want mediation to go forward. And lawyers are obviously one part of it. Yes, they don't mind mediation if they control it. So they are the ones who are making money in mediations in the US and a lot of countries. So in that case, they'd be very happy with it. But otherwise, there's a vested interest not to take it forward. And I'm telling you from examples. A junior lawyer told me, her senior told her, get into that mediation and disrupt it. Very simply told that. So that's the way it's going to happen. Those vested interests are creating a pension scheme for themselves. 14 years in India, average. Shireen will, of course, tell us about Bangladesh, but 14 years is average. Can you imagine the pension that you have created for you? There is a joke which goes out, not in India, everywhere in the world, about this father who's created a damn good legal practice. And one day he's not well. He's in the hospital. The son has become a lawyer, goes into the court, settles the matter, comes to the father. I've settled that matter which was going on for 20 years. He gets a slap on the face. Where did you get all your education from? Where did that car come from? It all came from that. So people, there is enough vested interest on the other side. So one bad example, one bad user experience will be multiplied by people, which a lot of people say, we don't know what that mediator is going to do. Oh, this suddenly he's got this whole big responsibility on their head. I'm telling you, in India, let's look at it, on the court system. 10 years of practice as a lawyer, you can practice as a mediator in the court. First day you enroll in the bar, you can actually represent a person who's on the death penalty. And you're saying the mediator has some huge responsibility. It takes 10 years for you to reach a point where you can sit in a mediation where definitely you're not even taking a decision for them. It's their dispute. But death penalty, not an issue. Anyone can go, even a junior lawyer, 0 days of experience can represent them. There is an issue somewhere of people either not understanding or not wanting to understand, because the lawyers have too much of an influencing power in all countries. If Turkey can say only lawyers can be mediators, in Greece, for that meeting that they have, a lawyer should be present. Lawyers come into the picture in mediation somewhere or the other. So I think that first of all, we have to get those people out there. Let's bring them out. First step, let's do that, which is what I've tried to do. It's not a matter of me bringing in people who've gone through any kind of training. Huma is an example of that right in front of you. She has that perfect mediator mindset. She knows everything about mediation. If in terms of the process you ask her, she's actually sat through it maybe. She's seen her father do it. She's been in that way training, if you call it. She's been trained on real life situations. So we have people that exist in the world. Let's bring them out first. Once we're out there, that circle gets created around them, but not a mediator by itself is not enough. There is a skill to bring people into mediation. Everyone cannot bring them into mediation. It's also a skill to sit with them, to make them understand first that you should try and resolve it amicably. If everyone can't do it, a mediator also might not have that skill, might not want to do it. So let's get the peacemakers out. When we got them together, then let's go out. Let's go out and tell people, let's create the demand. We've got the right people in place. So that's the way I look at it.
It's also important for organizations to be open so that it's not closed to lawyers only. When I founded the New Jersey Association of Professional Mediators in the early 90s, I made the decision not to leave it, not to close it only to attorneys, but opened it to anyone as long as they have the background and the skills and the experience. And this has shown in that state to the public, it's shown to the judiciary that non-lawyers who have the necessary background, training, and skills are able to mediate effectively. They've done studies, and the courts now have, as part of their rosters, non-attorney mediators, not just attorney mediators, because it's been publicized, it's been established, and it's been shown that they can help resolve cases very effectively.
Well,
so I think that's another important.
So Steve, again, you're going wrong there. The discussion has to be the reverse, that maybe lawyers can also be mediators. That's the discussion. To say, oh, non-lawyers can be mediators, we're getting it totally wrong. Non-lawyers, there's no concept of even saying non-lawyers. People can be mediators. They have to have the mediator mindset. Okay, as a lawyer, if you have the mindset, try it out. If you have not, over the last so many years, you being part of litigation, it hasn't changed your mindset. And if you have that mediator mindset, litigation also will not change you. You will be part of litigation. You can still have that mindset. You can retain that mindset. You will retain it, according to me. Okay, you as a lawyer, you think you can try it. Come to this side. Look, I am a lawyer. I can say this. That's the advantage that I have. come to this side, because as a practicing a lawyer, it is not, doesn't go against the concept of having the mediator mindset. I have
like
done
to
it over
change-
the years. Yeah, Leyla.
I think we need to change this whole like attorney or attorney. I don't look at whether you're attorney or not attorney. I don't look at the background profession. I think we are really trying to say the same thing. We're just kind of saying it differently. You're right. To be a mediator means that you have to have genuine empathy for other people. You really have to care and understand the emotions, right? But let's say someone does have that, but in order to be better, they need to get more education, like Steve talked about the 40-hour, or to get skills on how to deal with high conflict personalities. So what if a person, whether they're attorney or non-attorney, if they can have the mediation mindset, but then to get more educated in developing their skills
This
to
is what I,
be,
yeah.
right?
This is what I told
So
you, that I
that's
understood that.
exactly, I think,
No, no,
Steve, I think Tracy and I were all really saying the same thing.
No,
Absolutely.
I am saying the same thing. I created
Go
this whole content
We're
out
all
there
saying
only
the
for
same
this.
thing.
No, only for that. Everyone's saying it. I did it. I put out more than 600 hours of content out there for people everywhere in the world for free. I just spoke about the skill development project because everyone talks about what you just said. You have the mindset. What about skill development? Not training, skill development. That whole project is coming up. Leyla will be part of it. Steve will be part of it. All of you will be part of it. You're going to create content for people. You charge for it. I have no problem. I'll put this out. If you talk about platform, that's the platform. If there is a platform, if you call it a platform, I don't know about it because it's all out there. I get some nice messages, yes. But if I'm going to put it out there, I'm going to put out all the good people and all the good skill development that they have in mind. There'll be workshops, there'll be skill building sessions, there will be master classes. What are these? These are master classes which people don't value. People charge hundreds of dollars for Ken Cloak's sessions. They're still doing it. And here he's got, I think, the 21 or 20, whatever, maybe 30, 40 hours of Ken Cloak out there. Watch him. There is so much content available already. I mean, to think every topic that you want that skill development to be part of, tell me. This is the list of topics. And tell me these are the good people in the world who can do it. We'll get them into the picture. Let's put it out there. I'm not going against this concept. I'm saying that if people can develop their skills, let them do it. But let's get those people out there. People think we are going to make money out of the training. That is the industry that has developed. There is so much work for mediators out there. Let's start with just organizations. Organizations will be willing to pay for an organizational mediator. Hit that first. That's your money. That's where you earn money immediately. Every organization go to say, I will be your organizational mediator. There is a concept of ombuds in the US. I have had lots of discussions on that. For the ombuds, one little part is mediation. I am saying, of course, in the conference, we are going to have organizational ombuds versus organizational mediator, and we've had lots of certain discussions. Have a look at it. My concept is, separate this. Don't get this whole person on ombuds who does conflict coaching, who one part might do mediation, but counseling also. Remove the mediator part of it. Create organizational mediators, and as outsourced. They don't have to be sitting in their organization. So that's immediate revenue for mediators. Create that circle. I'm calling it a circle. Create that mediation circle in every organization. My concept is, yeah, Steve. What just one sec. Give me just, if you can complete this one. The concept is not for us to only be their mediators. Within the organization, find those people with the mediator mindset. Bring them out. They should be sitting when contract drafting happens for that organization. They should be the ones contacted within the organization if a dispute comes up with a supplier. Let them sit in those meetings. They'll bring a whole fair, reasonable discussion going. We are not out there to keep it as to us, because the number of people with that mediator mindset, for whom that heart, soul, spirituality plays a role, limited people in the world. So you have to further create those circles, identify those people, bring them out. That's when it becomes a large scale thing. Now look at it from an organizational perspective. In an organization, there are people who obviously are part of communities. They have children in school. It's all they're all human beings living their lives otherwise than in organizations. They'll take that experience back with them. They will further maybe create circles in their communities. That's where the multiplier effect comes, and it's not difficult. Yes, Steve, please.
One reason that APFM was created or recreated in 2012 was because originally it was the Academy of Family Mediators, and it was 4,000 mediators strong, very cohesive, all dealing with mediation and family mediation. They got subsumed with Spider and with another organization into this organization called ACR, the Association for Conflict Resolution. And what you were talking about happened there. There were so many different aspects of dispute resolution, summary jury trials, ombudsman, the A word, all different methods for resolving disputes, that the mediators lost themselves and lost the voice and lost the membership and lost all of that. And it was important to circle back and have a separate organization specifically devoted to mediation, not to any of the other facets. And I'm very happy that happened. I know I'm going to need to run to catch a plane. I just wanted to remind everyone, if you would like more information about it, apfmnet.org is the website. And remember, the Mediator Vikram new 2023 for a 20% special reduction for the first year, if people would like to partake of it. I thank you very much for the opportunity to present. I thank all of the fellow panelists, and I look forward to many more interesting discussions. And thank you again for the opportunity. Thank you, Vikram, for everything that you're doing in the world of mediation.
Thank you, Steve, for being part of this. I think these conversations have to happen, and lots of these conversations have to happen, and let's put it out there. So thank you very much. And of course,
Absolutely.
we'll see you soon. Come into any of these conference sessions. They're all, the Zoom link remains the same. So whenever you have time, please drop in, and just your perspective. Everyone's perspective is really important. And with your experience, you'll bring in some interesting points of view. So thank you.
And for all the fathers and grandfathers out there, happy Father's Day coming up.
Bye,
Take care.
Steve.
Thank you for inviting us. Thanks.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
so we have, of course, Michelle, who's put in comments. I haven't brought the comments in yet, but of course, the machine part of it. But before that, I think Shireen wanted to say something. Shireen, you wanted to say something? Okay, again, this is the practice in lip reading. Okay, what do you think she's saying? Okay.
Now, just one point, I forgot to say it initially. One of the things on this entire awareness building, and considering the fact that the majority of the people in the country I live in, and perhaps even in India, are not English speaking. In the lower courts, we can use Bengali. In the higher courts, you have to use English. So that is one of the, call it a selling point or whatever. That is what I emphasize on, is that when you're doing mediation, you are even in control of the language, because by the time it goes up to the high court, even if you're sitting and watching, you're saying, what is the lawyer saying? So language, you can, as you say, you can't be that. Changing the language of communication is a big plus point in mediation, and I don't think it's coming across. So as Vikram is saying, we need to emphasize all the plus points and say how beneficially it is for everybody, and maybe then we get people to start using it more actively in our countries. I'm sure I know they use it in the States, in family mediation, in insurance claims, but it is not as heavily in practice here in my part of the world as it is over there. That's it.
Let me tell you, Shireen, it is not in practice in the US the way you would think it is. It is the court system again, where it is connected to. I'm telling you, this is today's example. This person is trying to create things outside the court system They're already getting disillusioned. So in terms of language, Shireen, there's a whole symposium on language and mediation. Please watch those sessions. That's happening. And
Okay, I'll
of
do
course, I mean, let me go back to what Tracey-Leigh, but did not clarify that. Tracey-Leigh, when you said that the mediator might be called in by courts and they might have to tell people that the legislation has to be very clear. Mediators cannot be called in, and look at our legislation. Just what you do is on my website also there is a link. To find that link also might be an issue because there's content there. Under the mediation section, there is a link to our legislation. Have a look at that legislation.
Okay.
We have not done it. It's part of what the UNCITRAL, imagine countries come together, people from various countries come together, draft something out. So they must have considered a lot of things. Very simple. And always remember, when you look at it, this is 1980. So in 1980 also, there was a thought process that let's keep it simple. Let's not complicate it for people. And when Shireen is saying about language, legislation also in various parts of the world has to be, of course, should be, I don't know, in Shireen, in Bangladesh also, do you have the legislation in English and in Bangla?
Legislation nowadays is in Bangla, but you have it in English and Bangla, but in the event of any issues or clarification, then the Bangla one will prevail.
Yeah. So in the Bangla one, how is mediation defined? What is the word used for mediation?
I forget. I can't remember.
Okay. So I'm saying we have Sule. You will connect with
You will
Sule.
probably have something like that.
Yeah. So in terms of the Bangla speaking people, why do we even need to use the word mediation? Why are we stuck with this word? I mean, let's just forget about the word.
Yeah,
Sule.
it has to be a local in the language that everybody understands.
Exactly. And they'll connect to the process only when they connect to the right word and the right people. So right people, right word definitely is the way we have to go. So first thing, starting point, right people. Nothing else is going to take off. No awareness is going to help up till we don't connect them with the right people, and they are there. It's all available to just connect. That's all. It's a whole ecosystem that is all ready. No one puts it together because, like I said, there is a vested interest at the ground level also. Politics pays. Dividing people pays. Don't let them sit together. Come to us. The panchayat wants people to come to them. That's the power that they have. They don't want to let it go. So politics, advocacy, activism, all that is going to be something that you will be fighting against. It is still going to happen. But if you can start small, get the right people into it, it's all going to happen. But I still have to take yes, Tracey-Leigh.
So I thank you. I agree with you. I just think that what we have to, there's a part which is this is the ideal, and then we're dealing with, but this is the reality. And I think that I love the conversation because the conversation says, let's change our reality to the ideal. In order to change that reality, we've got to become a unified voice. And I think that even this discussion is part of it. There's a growing movement that has to happen. You talk about that revolution, but it's that growing movement that says mediation is always outside of the legal system. It's not an adjunct to the legal system. It doesn't exist side by side with the legal system. So the moment you've got laws that are put in place, and these laws say you can first try, or we suggest you try mediation, and then you come to court. Those laws tend to create a situation where we're seeing here's mediation and we are operating in parallel. If you can mediate and resolve, well, then the litigation falls away. Maybe the courts are going to make that order an order of court or that agreement. And I know we're against that because we've already had that discussion. But my sense is the reality that we have to deal with is such, again, that we have to ensure that those people that are working, wherever they are operating as mediators, that there is a protection, which is need for a unified voice that says, as you're saying, Vikram, that mediators should never be called to court. But there is enough case law in the Western world, that is, to show that mediators are being called to court. So we need a united voice of mediators that says we need to change this. We need the conventions. Because the reality is something different to the ideal to which we are striving. And I also just, again, I think,
My request,
Shireen, you touched on it.
my request.
This,
One by one. We'll go one by one because each thing that
it's
you
all
say.
united.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Break it up. Break it up. I'll tell you why. Why? I've understood now. Now it's not just going to be the A word. It's going to be the L word. Let's not use the word lawyers into our conversation. Let's remove the C word. Why do we have to talk about courts when we talk about mediation? Let's cut those words out for the moment. And when you talk about the aspect of mediators being called in, is because legislation hasn't happened. In 1996, we got the legislation which says that mediators cannot be called in as a witness. How difficult is it to put it into place? I don't know about the Uniform Mediation Act. Leyla will tell us about the Uniform Mediation Act, whether in the US they have that, whether they called in. But confidentiality itself is not protected in the US. In 1996, we protected confidentiality. There is a mediator in the US who goes around, he's done a confidentiality tour and tells people about the fact that in the US, confidentiality is not protected in mediation. And if a mediator is saying that, that's malpractice. You cannot say that mediation is confidential because courts in certain states in the US can call in whatever material has even been put into a mediation. Courts have been given power above everything else. In India and Tamil, the legislation, they cannot call the mediator as a witness and whatever happened in the mediation as material for evidence. So it's about not losing it in terms of thinking as US as the ideal. That is not the ideal. Let's look at various parts of the world. If legislation has been put into place in India, let's highlight it. If Bangladesh is doing something good, let's highlight it. There is some focus has been on how US is doing it because they've been doing it for years. They've been doing something wrong for years. Don't fall into that trap. The box of the fact of that training itself, was Steve told you that 40 hours, how it was created. That's the box that went around the world. Don't fall for that trap. It's not the ideal. It's a problem there. It's a big problem in the way people are perceiving mediation. And then when you said about reality, let's look at reality and the ideal. Reality is a perception of the individual. You perceive it in that way. You perceive the way reality is about lawyers and everything. That's your perception of reality. That's not reality. There is a whole world out there which is totally disconnected with what you are looking at in terms of the legal system and courts, and you think mediation is connected with the courts. No, they have no idea. They have people within their communities who exist and they go to them. I told you, I was giving, again, this is yesterday's discussion, and obviously everyone can't watch everything that I do. There is a whole report in India which says that only could be 3%, could be 25% of all the disputes out there go into courts. And of course, I want to take the argument in my favor. So I'll say only 3% are going into courts. And I have a backup for that. If there are only 3% going, there will be about 400, 500 million disputes out there. Now, compare it to the population of India, it will be about 1/3 of the population of India. In the US, if there is a 300 million population, check how many matters go into courts there. 100 million matters go into courts in the US. So in terms of population ratio and all, we'll be somewhere there. So it's a huge, I mean, in terms of dispute system and dispute resolution, which is happening out there. How it is happening? Again, we look at traditional thing. There are chiefs, there are rulers, there are wise people. They might be doing the A word. They're doing arbitrations. They're not doing mediations. So let's not look at traditional systems and so fall into the part that let's look at traditional thing. No, be distinguished and distinguish for people. Like the first look, I went through the entire series based on my understanding of where things are. The first symposium was mediation in our culture and traditions, only to differentiate this aspect. It is not in traditional culture that there is mediation only.
Sure.
Yeah, so we have to distinguish that for people, that we are coming in with a process where this is not the A word. We have to be able to distinguish that. Once that distinguishing happens, because look, over time, society has changed. And of course, the colonizer systems came in. So people left their traditional dispute resolution systems because certain things were imposed with them on them as arbitration when they did not have a voice. So court systems became something they went to because they wanted a voice. It's not that arbitrary 5 people sat together, some elders of the community. Now this is our decision, has to be followed. There is no concept of being heard. Okay, there was, of course, every community coming together, but that voice got lost and there was no appeal against it. That was it. So the popularity of the court system, we have to understand how things develop. Why was the colonizer able to get into and make colonies? Because they found a way to do it and they found a need for it. If there was so much division in society, they took advantage of that. So let's not only put it on the colonizer. A colonizer was just taking advantage of the social system. So divisions were part of society. They took that division and they made an industry out of it. I call it an industry or whatever you want to call it. They made an industry out of it. Same thing with the court system. They were able to sell the court system to people because of this arbitrary nature of the traditional system in places. No one wants to, I mean, people want a place where they can go to and they're not lost in that. Of course, if one person is not being able to get it right, they want to go to an appeal process. So that is why these systems develop. So I'm saying let's first get to the user with the right people, connect them to the process that we want them to connect with, explain to them that little difference between taking a decision, someone else taking a decision for you, and this is your process. Then it's both ways based on them understanding the process. They'll give you names of people. So yeah, next point, Tracy.
So
I
Vikram,
apologize. I just wanted to say good night, just because it's 11:15 my time, and I'm starting to get a little sleepy.
Leyla, whenever you schedule sessions, always do it in your morning because it'll be easy for everyone. Steve would have been available.
We'll do it, yes, at 11 a.m. That's what we'll do.
No, that's my midnight. No, that's not happening. There's Shireen's midnight also. So we'll do it.
Shireen it's a morning for her right now.
Yeah, right now. But your 11 a.m. is midnight for us. It's 11:30 for me. It's midnight for Shireen. So that's why we can't do it 11 o'clock.
We'll do 8 a.m. my time.
8:30. Yeah, 8 o'clock.
And I have another appointment, so I have to.
I'm going to say good night on my time and good morning to the rest of you, and good afternoon, whoever.
So Leyla, before you leave, any concluding remarks, anything that you want to leave us with, some thoughts that you want to leave us with?
Just really thank you so much for really inviting us and this platform and the mediation mindset. I think it's a beautiful start, but I still really truly believe that yes, you can teach someone empathy, but you can have someone that has empathy become better by developing tools and training to be the best version of themselves. So that's my 2 cents. And
we'll put that into
colleague
place.
Tracey-Leigh.
We'll put
Good
that
night,
skill
Shireen.
development. Leyla, thank you
Good
very much.
night.
You didn't get to speak too much because I took over the entire thing, but I had to put these points across.
I am used to it. Good night.
Yeah, good night. Shireen also needs to leave. So Shireen,
Thank you.
Parting remarks, closing remarks.
No closing remarks. Just thank you for giving us the platform to speak and for being able to express our views and to share our views and to learn from each other. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I look forward to your other sessions as well.
Yes, please join us whenever you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Shireen. Nice to have met you.
Can we leave it at Tracy or we have to say Tracey-Leigh?
You can leave it at Tracy.
Oh, thank you very much. That takes a lot of pressure off. Yes, Tracy. So there was some points of yours that you want to take
so you know, Vikram, thank you. I just have this sense of, for me, what is critical with mediators, as I've pointed out, do no harm. That's a big one. My second thing that is a passion for me is that anyone that steps into this arena So we have to differentiate between the arenas. But if I could say within my country, so South Africa, we would have an urban arena, and then we have a traditional arena. My concern is just for the mediators in that urban arena, working with the reality. All my heart is only that they would be protected. And so and while we don't have legislation, case law in South Africa where mediators have been brought in, and I do believe that our judges will protect mediators. I think that we can learn from history, and what we learn from history is that we don't learn from history. And so, from my sense, it's this case of, if in the Northern Hemisphere there is so much case law pointing to where mediators who are suddenly brought in, so they're working in good faith, but they are suddenly called in to talk about whether the parties were acting in good faith. So we suddenly bring the mediator in, and I call that foul. I think that's red card against the legal system. But for mediators operating in that field, my heart, my passion is that the mediators would be protected. And so I come just from in those early days when I decided I'm going to have now a mediation practice, no longer practicing family law, family mediation. I just recall a colleague saying to me, Tracey-Leigh, if you do any of my mediations, make sure that you are properly accredited with the correct accreditation body. Make sure that when there is parties are saying that they're coming to you, that there's no agreement until they have gone back to the attorneys, because it's proposal until it's agreement. But it was the first part that really got to me, and I just thought to myself, in the absence of some kind of body, so whether it's World Mediation Circle, that's what I belong to, or there's something, it's that sense of belonging, you stand alone as the mediator. And so therein, I just have the sense, Vikram, for the need for the protection of the mediator at all times. That doesn't negate anything of what you're saying. I believe 100%. It's mediator, it's the mindset. What is the need of people? Do you see me? Do you hear me?
Okay.
Am I understood?
Can I come
And
in at
that's
this
what
point?
that mindset is.
I need to come in because I'll tell you, this is again that colonization mindset that the judiciary is creating these needs for you. The most inefficient institution in your country could be, in most parts of the world, is not wanting to let go. So now there is this process called mediation, which is happening separately. In some way, we have to get in. Good faith. You use that word terminology, term good faith. There are countries in this world where now courts have said, we will see whether you went into that mediation in good faith, otherwise we'll put costs on you. Now, good faith also judiciary will decide. It's a big issue. They are controlling things which we need to, I mean, look, that's another culture that you develop, that where you say that judiciary, yes, it has a role to play. It is not something which takes over our lives. It is the most inefficient institution, can't even do its job properly, and it wants to get into another process which has nothing to do with. And the governments have to understand that. That's why they have to put into place legislation which takes care of that. But governments are also influenced by who? Judiciary. There is, interestingly, in our country, a mediation bill was going to be, it was in a way, okay, so let's say suggestions for the moment, a committee set up by the Chief Justice of India. The Chief Justice of India is going to set up a committee to look at how mediation has to be regulated in this country. That's how much the judiciary gets into your lives. Keep it away. It's a colonizer's institution. Don't let it take control of your life. There is empowerment of the people that is required, which the governments have to understand. They have to understand that a simple legislation on mediation has to be put out, which we have. And interestingly, we have the best law on mediation, I say. And Lawyers in this country, judiciary, even mediators say we have no law on mediation, only because it's called conciliation. They don't even want to read the law. The title of the law says we have adopted the UNCITRAL Conciliation Rules 1980. And the UNCITRAL has clarified in their current mediation, the model mediation, the law that they've put out there, that we were using that term earlier. Now we're using mediation. There is no difference between the two. In the model law, they have said mediation or conciliation or any other term used. And they put out the process saying where a third person assists you in resolving a dispute but doesn't have the authority to impose a solution. That's your test. Your test is not the word. They have put it out there. Put it out to your country, to the world. People are getting lost in something where there is the lack of understanding, or they do not want to understand. Don't fall into that trap. I will have a discussion whether we have it. Let's see what it goes. Access to justice. People say mediation is access to justice. I mean, I found it absurd. My sitting in a room with some person who helps me resolve a dispute, suddenly I've got access to justice. The judiciary fools you. They actually end up interpreting things in this way because it suits their purpose, because they're pushing people into mediation. And of course, why did this come up in the judiciary? Because people went to the courts saying, why are you pushing us into mediation? We've come to the courts because that is your constitutional responsibility. And they had to interpret it because they were inefficient. They interpreted, no, you're getting access to justice and it's not a barrier. You can come here. The kind of barrier that's been created, that now this legislation that we have put into play, this bill that was put out, luckily it was not for commercial matters. You have to send a notice to the other side. Whether that should be there or not, that's another debate, whether the culture has to develop, because if you send a notice, the other person just has to reject it. That's it. So people are not even, it's being rejected because that notice is sent out when lawyers are already involved, because the case is going to be filed in courts. Lawyers will not let you accept it. So it's being rejected. I think only maybe 1% of all those even get referred to mediation. Now what will happen is, because it's not successful, this is what will happen. Oh, you did not go into mediation, so we'll put costs on you, scare people into it. So there's lots on the other side, which is an issue. Yeah, please, Tracy. There's lots of other points. One thing is, Michelle was putting out comments and I did not take them out. If you don't mind, can I just put it out there? So she said people should be given the opportunity to understand empathy and how to apply it to their lives. Some are lost and broken, but it is something within them. They just do not know it is there. Is this a nature versus nurture concept regarding empathy? Okay, full discussion point on empathy. Michelle, you should have been part of the discussion on empathy and mediation. Now we will have a whole discussion on this again sometime. We can put a session. Then yes, agreed, Mediator Vikram, and wonderful insight given by Stephen about 40 hours does not train anyone who to be a mediator. My kids went to driving school longer than that. Mediators are much too valuable to expect people to think 40 hours will provide necessary concepts of mediation. I'm saying people with the mediator mindset already have all the concepts. They don't require to be the concepts. They don't need to be put there. But Leyla says skill development. That's a process which goes on for life. Evolution of a mediator, that series was all about that. That evolution will go on. And of course, it comes through content that you listen to or you read, or you, because of your practice, your reflective practice, because of that, whatever way it comes, have conversations, whatever it comes, that evolution happens. So that will happen. Yes, Tracy, I put out what she said.
Wonderful. That's great. I think I need to ask you if I may take a depart from this.
Only if you promise, Tracy, only if you promise that mediation circles will be created in every corner of South Africa. You're going to work with me on that. Only on that promise.
Definitely. And the wonderful thing, Vikram, is that it's happening. It is happening. I'm seeing it happen. I know it's happening out there. There are wonderful people. And in fact, in South Africa, it is part, in Africa, it is part of even, I don't think we can go anywhere in the world mediation is not something that's been developed in the 19th century, the 20th century. It has always been around. It's always been around. But thank you, and I will make sure. So good to
Please
chat.
join the other sessions. Lots
I
of
will.
interesting topics coming up.
I've seen. Thank you.
See you.